Year 10 GCSE practice paper, Unit 3A, Britain 1903 to 1928. This is a June 2013 paper that you'll be undertaking as your assessment, Year 10. And we're looking at question 5, the 16-mark question. This paper is solely based on women and their effort on the home front, in the factories, etc., and whether their conditions were good or poor. So that's the context, the background. Before we go any further, we really need to unpick the source booklet. I'm going to give you 10 minutes during this assessment to unpick the source booklet, and then 20 minutes to answer the 16-mark question. You must use black pen. Let's get into that good habit now. And the quality of your written communication will also be assessed, i.e. your spelling, punctuation and grammar. So how you structure, lay out and also proofread your work to make sure it's your absolute best. That's going to be critical. We have to unpick the question later and understand what the question is asking us, this 16-mark question. But before we do that, let's really unpick the source booklet that will accompany your test paper. Let's get back to the beginning. Sorry about this. Okay. The source paper, here we are. Okay. Background information. During the First World War, many people did war work. Many women did war work. By 1918, women made up 60% of all workers in munitions factories. You should be annotating this source booklet. Munitions, the ammunition factories, working with the dangerous chemicals, making the bombs, the shells, the ammunition for the soldiers on the Western Front, where weapons and ammunition were manufactured. In addition, 800,000 women were employed in other heavy industries. Some historians believe that women had good working conditions. Others suggest that their conditions and pay were poor. You've got to be thinking now, what's my own knowledge? What do I know about this? Annotate down here and around here, okay? The things you can draw upon that you've learned, because you know you're going to have to use your own knowledge and the sources to answer this 16-mark question. Remember what we've taught you. Look at the NOP, okay? The nature, the origin and the purpose of the sources as you deconstruct them. What's in the source? What's the content? And what's your own contextual knowledge? What do you know that you can add to this source? Okay, so this is an interview. So when you look at the nature of the source, okay, it's an interview from a female munitions worker who worked in the environment of the factory, making shells, ammunitions, etc. You can annotate around here everything you know, but look to see if it was dangerous or not and how much they were paid. Okay, so for example, there were minor accidents, of course, but I don't remember any serious ones. So straight away you can see that there were some accidents, but for this one worker she can't remember there being serious ones. Think about what you know from your own knowledge. Were the wages as good as men? Women were paid 2p per hour, but the men 12p. We had caps to cover our hair, but otherwise we had no protection from the gunpowder, which turned our faces, hair and hands yellow and made us sneeze. Do you know if that's true? Think about the canaries. Think about how it turned their skin a different colour, those women that worked with the dangerous chemicals when they were making the bombs, the shells and the ammunition. 8-hour shifts. What do we see in other sources? Is there more hours for other workers? 6 days a week is quite a lot. So start to formulate an idea in your mind about the pay conditions of women during the war, and then add your own knowledge maybe underneath this, okay? So as you're annotating and building up a picture. Source B. Let's zoom in on this one. A cartoon with the title Munitionette, published in a national newspaper in 1915. The munitionette was a nickname given to women who worked in munitions factories. Look at the style, okay, the trousers, the short hair with the cap, okay, so as the hair doesn't get caught. That tells you that they may have been working in dangerous conditions. It's quite glamorous, isn't it? Okay, this look here, it's almost like you can see the woman wearing makeup, independence. Think about what, okay, look at the bombs. You should see how the girls feel them, okay. What does this source tell you? Look, remember, NOP, the nature, origin and purpose again, and what's your own contextual knowledge. Think about the Canaries again. Think about the danger that women faced. Think about some of the injuries, how they had to take health and safety seriously because women had never worked in the factories before. It's from a national newspaper. Could this be sensationalising the role of women? Think about the purpose of the source. It's to educate, isn't it? It's to show the war. You could argue that this is dangerous. Live ammunition, weaponry, okay? And the woman's hands on it, look. So they are doing dangerous work with dangerous chemicals. You can draw on your own knowledge. Down below is a poem written by a female munitions worker from the time in 1917. So really look at, again, the nature, the origin and the purpose, okay, and the content. And it tells you they have money to spend. Years back they wore rags, now they've got silk stockings. So women had independence money, they were well paid. Go back to source A, where they were paid less than men still. Start to formulate an idea with your own knowledge and the sources. They could die at any time. It could blow up their workplace. The first verse, you can see that they're saying they worked in dangerous conditions. I have bracelets and jewellery, rings envied by friends. I drive out in taxis and do theatres in style. And this is my verdict. It's jolly worthwhile. So it's worth the risk to be taken more seriously in society, to have independence, to be able to go to the pub and socialise and not be chaperoned by your elder sister or auntie or mother. Okay, women had independence, freedom, and were gaining self-esteem. And you know all this, but we know conditions were quite challenging for women as well. It was the first time they'd worked under these conditions. So just weigh up in your mind, okay, what you feel about the conditions. First part of Source D is an extract from The Home Front by Sylvia Pankhurst, published in 1932. You know Sylvia was one of the leading suffragettes. Her mum, Emmeline Pankhurst, was the founder of the WSPU, heavily involved in the WFL, the Women's Franchise League. Sylvia was really active, an active campaigner. She was one of the key drivers behind the 1915 Right to Serve demonstration in London. So you know this source could be biased. Think about the nature, the origin, the purpose. Think about the origin, okay? Sylvia Pankhurst, active suffragette, published in 1932, looking back on her time during the Home Front, i.e. the war effort, the war engine, what women did at home. It could be exaggerating, it could be glorifying in the danger of the role. Here she's describing a visit to an aircraft factory, painting the airplane wings with varnish. I mean, that's going to be quite a dangerous thing to be doing for women, isn't it? Or for anyone. Long hours, look, 8 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Frequently expected to work on till 8 and were not paid higher hourly rates for this overtime. Meals were often taken in horrid atmosphere of the workshop, so they're eating where they're working amongst all the fumes of the varnish, okay? So it's going to be quite difficult conditions. It was common, they told me, for 6 or more of the women painters to be lying down ill because of the fumes from the varnish. It might be half an hour or more before they were able to return to their work. And really, you could argue that this was quite dangerous. But compared to this, Source E, being a bus conductor, it wasn't, okay? So you've got to weigh up the sources and think, does it show poor conditions, dangerous conditions, good conditions, good pay, low pay, and then formulate an opinion with your own knowledge, okay? But always think of the nature, origin, purpose of the source and what the content is telling us, okay? And then deconstruct them all, a few notes just to get your brain ticking over. And this is from a history book, Source F. So you've got 6 sources to work with, 6 sources to include in your answer. It's a history book by an historian, published in 2010. After the time, again, think NOP and content. It's going to look back, it's going to be heavily researched and resourced, and it's going to tell us about the sometimes dangerous conditions, the 12 hours a day in unpleasant environments. And you can read it for yourself and zoom in. The point I'm making here is some of the other sources are based on individual accounts from the time, just after the time, or actually during the time. But this one here is going to be based on a more rounded research, okay, because it's a book, and it's going to want to inform historians who want to read up on this era. So actually it's going to give an overall picture of what conditions were like. So it might be one you could probably trust maybe more than others. However, you've formulated your opinion now, and I'm going to end the video and start a new video looking at how you answer question 5A.